My beloved child. Pause here for a moment. Do not rush past these words. There is a reason your eyes stopped here tonight. There is a reason your spirit feels restless. There is a reason your heart has been asking questions that nobody seems able to answer. Something has been happening behind the scenes of your life, and although you have felt its presence, you have not yet seen its full shape. You have sensed distance. You have sensed silence. You have sensed a strange shift in the energy between you and the person your soul keeps returning to. And the more you tried to understand it, the more confusing it became. Some nights you convinced yourself that everything was fine. Other nights you stared into the darkness wondering why they suddenly became harder to reach. Why their messages changed. Why their attention seemed divided. Why their heart felt present one day and absent the next. You asked yourself questions you never wanted to ask. Did they lose feelings? Did they change their mind? Did someone else appear? Did the connection mean more to you than it meant to them? My child. Before your thoughts carry you further into fear, listen carefully. What you are about to hear is not what you expected. The story unfolding around your soulmate is far more complicated than what appears on the surface. Because the distance you feel is not being created by a lack of connection. The silence you feel is not being created by indifference. And the confusion you feel is not coming from the place you think it is. There are moments in life when a person's heart stands at a crossroads. Not because they do not know what they feel, but because they know exactly what they feel. And that truth terrifies them. Your soulmate has entered one of those moments. For a long time they tried to ignore what was happening inside them. They tried to dismiss the emotions. They tried to rationalize the connection. They tried to convince themselves that what they felt would eventually fade. But it didn't. Instead it grew. Quietly. Slowly. Like a candle refusing to be extinguished. Every memory became heavier. Every conversation became more meaningful. Every moment connected to you left a deeper mark than they were willing to admit. And that frightened them. Because feelings have a way of changing the future. Feelings have a way of demanding decisions. And decisions have consequences. That is where this story truly begins. Not with romance. Not with destiny. Not even with love. It begins with a choice. A choice that has been approaching for far longer than either of you realize. A choice that now stands directly in front of them. And the closer they get to making it, the more distant they seem from you. You have interpreted their absence as rejection. But what if it isn't rejection? What if the very thing making them step back is the same thing forcing them to think about you more than ever before? Think about that for a moment. Because while you have been questioning the connection, they have been questioning their entire future. There are conversations happening around them that you cannot hear. There are expectations being placed upon them that you cannot see. There are pressures surrounding them that they rarely reveal to anyone. People look at them and assume they have everything figured out. But beneath the surface there is turmoil. A storm. An internal battle. A conflict between what is expected and what is felt. And every day that conflict becomes harder to ignore. My child. There is something important you must understand. Not every soul runs toward love when it appears. Some run away from it. Not because they don't want it, Because they know how much it could change. Your soulmate understands something that even they struggle to admit. You have become impossible to forget. No matter how busy life becomes. No matter how much time passes. No matter how many distractions appear. A part of them continues returning to thoughts of you. And that creates a problem. Because there is another path standing in front of them. A path that seems easier. Safer. More predictable. A path supported by people around them. A path that appears logical. A path that promises stability. And lately, that path has been demanding an answer. You felt the shift the moment it began. Your intuition noticed it before your mind could explain it. Something changed. Something became different. And although you couldn't identify it, your spirit knew. The reason your heart has been so unsettled lately is because an important chapter has quietly started unfolding. A chapter connected to commitment. Connected to timing. Connected to a decision that cannot be postponed forever. Your soulmate has been standing face to face with questions they never thought they would have to answer. Questions about who they are. Questions about what they truly want. Questions about whether they are willing to risk everything familiar for something they cannot fully predict. And every answer somehow leads back to you. That is why their behavior has become inconsistent. One moment they seem close. The next moment they disappear. One moment they appear certain. The next moment they seem lost. It is because they are fighting two realities at once. One reality belongs to the life they built. The other belongs to the life their heart keeps imagining. And the gap between those realities is becoming impossible to ignore. My child. There is a scene that has repeated itself in their life more times than you know. A quiet moment. A random reminder. A song. A place. A photograph. A memory. Something small. Something ordinary. Yet somehow it always brings your presence back into their mind. And every time it happens they tell themselves the same thing. This shouldn't still affect me. Yet it does. Every single time. Because the connection was never as simple as they wanted it to be. It reached deeper than convenience. Deeper than attraction. Deeper than circumstance. And now they are facing the consequences of that truth. The closer they move toward making a major life decision, the louder their heart becomes. That is the part nobody sees. That is the part they hide. Because admitting it would force them to confront everything. The feelings. The possibilities. The risks. The dreams they buried. The future they secretly imagine. And perhaps most frightening of all. The possibility that they already know which direction their soul wants to go. But before that truth can fully surface, something else must happen. Something unexpected. Something neither of you sees coming. Because there is another person connected to this story. A person whose presence has quietly influenced events from the shadows. A person who believes they understand what is best for your soulmate. A person whose opinions carry weight. A person whose words have shaped decisions for years. This individual has been speaking. Advising. Encouraging. Guiding. And recently their influence has become stronger than ever. Your soulmate listens. But not because they completely agree. They listen because disappointing this person feels almost impossible. The pressure is real. The expectations are heavy. And the consequences of defying them feel enormous. That is why your soulmate appears trapped between two worlds. One world is built on obligation. The other is built on truth. And right now those worlds are colliding. You have only seen the effects. You have not seen the collision itself. But it is happening. Every day. Every conversation. Every sleepless night. Every silent moment. The tension grows. And as it grows, the future becomes harder to predict. My child. The title that brought you here contains only part of the story. Because when people hear the words, getting married, they immediately assume the ending has already been decided. But endings are not decided by appearances. They are decided by choices. And choices are still being made. What you do not know is that your soulmate has been questioning things they never questioned before. Suddenly the future that once seemed obvious no longer feels obvious. Suddenly the plans that once seemed certain no longer feel certain. Suddenly the road they expected to walk feels unfamiliar. Why? Because truth has a way of disrupting comfortable illusions. And once truth enters a person's heart, it rarely leaves quietly. Something awakened inside them. Something they tried to ignore. Something they tried to silence. Something that keeps returning. That something has your name attached to it. Even when they try to focus elsewhere. Even when they try to move forward. Even when they try to convince themselves they are making the practical choice. The feeling remains. Persistent. Patient. Unyielding. Like a voice refusing to disappear. And lately, that voice has become impossible for them to escape. The strange thing is that they have told almost nobody about this. Most people around them believe everything is proceeding exactly as planned. Most people think they are confident, certain, resolved. But behind closed doors a different reality exists. A reality filled with hesitation. A reality filled with questions. A reality filled with memories. And every memory somehow leads back to the same place. Back to you. Back to the connection. Back to the possibility they never fully explored. Back to the future they never stopped wondering about. My child. There is a reason this message found you now instead of months ago. Timing matters. Because events are accelerating. Things that moved slowly are beginning to move quickly. Conversations are happening. Decisions are approaching. Truths are surfacing. And emotions long hidden are rising toward the surface. You can feel it. That is why your spirit has felt different lately. That is why certain thoughts keep returning. That is why sleep has carried unusual dreams. That is why your intuition refuses to stay quiet. Your soul senses movement before your eyes can see it. And movement is exactly what is happening. But there is one revelation still hidden. One piece of the story not yet revealed. One detail capable of changing everything. The person your soulmate appears to be moving toward. The person everyone assumes is their future. The person connected to these expectations and plans is carrying a secret of their own. A secret that has not yet fully emerged. A truth that has remained concealed. A truth that, once revealed, could alter the direction of every decision currently being made. Your soulmate does not yet know the full extent of it. The people around them do not know the full extent of it. But signs have already started appearing. Small cracks. Small inconsistencies. Small moments that refuse to make sense. At first they ignored them. Then they questioned them. Now they cannot stop noticing them. And with every new sign, their certainty weakens. Because deep inside they are beginning to wonder whether the path everyone expects them to follow is truly the path meant for them. That question is growing louder. And the answer is approaching faster than they realize. But what happens next? What is about to be uncovered? What is about to force your soulmate into the most important decision of their life? Is something neither of you are prepared for. And when that hidden truth finally comes into the light, someone's entire future will change forever. The hidden truth did not arrive all at once. It never does. The most powerful revelations enter a person's life quietly at first. Like a distant sound. Like a shadow moving at the edge of vision. Like a feeling that something is wrong even when everything appears right. That is exactly what began happening around your soulmate. At first they ignored it. They told themselves they were overthinking. They convinced themselves that stress was creating unnecessary doubts. After all, when a person stands near a major life decision, nervousness is normal. Questions are normal. Fear is normal. But this was different. Because the feeling refused to disappear. Instead it grew stronger. Every passing day added another piece to a puzzle they never intended to solve. A conversation that didn't make sense. A reaction that felt forced. An answer that seemed rehearsed. A silence that appeared at exactly the wrong moment. None of these things seemed significant alone. Yet together they began forming a picture. And the picture frightened them. Not because it exposed someone else's truth. Because it forced them to confront their own. You see, my child, there comes a moment when the soul becomes exhausted from pretending. A moment when the heart becomes tired of negotiating with itself. A moment when a person realizes they have spent more energy avoiding the truth than accepting it. Your soulmate is approaching that moment. For a long time they believed they could separate their emotions from their future. They believed practical decisions should be made without involving the heart. They believed responsibility mattered more than desire. They believed commitment could be built solely on logic. But now they are discovering something difficult. The heart always keeps score. It remembers what the mind tries to forget. And no matter how carefully a person constructs their future, eventually their deepest feelings begin demanding a voice. That voice has become impossible for your soulmate to silence. Some nights they lie awake staring into darkness. The world around them sleeps. The noise fades. The distractions disappear. And suddenly there is nowhere left to run. No messages. No obligations. No expectations. Just them and their thoughts. That is when your presence appears most strongly. Not because they summon it. Not because they choose it. Because it arrives on its own. A memory surfaces. A smile they remember. A conversation they replay. A feeling they cannot explain. And before they realize what is happening, they are thinking about you again. Wondering about you again. Questioning everything again. The strange part is that they have tried to stop. More than once. More than 10 times. Perhaps more than 100. Each attempt ends the same way. The connection returns. The thoughts return. The questions return. And each return leaves a deeper impression than the one before. Meanwhile, the outside world continues moving forward. People keep asking questions. People keep making assumptions. People keep discussing plans. Everyone believes the future has already been decided. Everyone except your soulmate. Because while others see certainty, they see confusion. While others see stability, they see unfinished emotions. While others see a clear path, they see a crossroads. And standing at that crossroads has become exhausting. They are tired of carrying the weight alone. Tired of pretending they know exactly what they want. Tired of acting confident while uncertainty grows inside them. The pressure is becoming unbearable. Yet they continue smiling. Continue nodding. Continue telling people everything is fine. Not because it is true. Because it is easier than explaining the storm happening within. My child. There is something you must understand about the soul. It cannot be bribed. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be permanently ignored. A person may convince their mind of many things. But eventually the soul begins speaking louder. That is exactly what is happening now. The signs have become impossible for your soulmate to dismiss. Every time they attempt to move fully toward one future, something inside them resists. Every time they tell themselves the decision is settled, doubt appears. Every time they force certainty, confusion follows. At first they interpreted this as fear. Now they are beginning to suspect it might be something else. Now they are beginning to wonder whether their hesitation is actually guidance. Whether their discomfort is actually wisdom. Whether their uncertainty is actually truth trying to protect them. That realization changes everything. Because once a person begins questioning the path they are on, they start looking more carefully at the people walking beside them. And that is exactly what happened. The person everyone expects them to choose suddenly appears different. Not because that individual changed overnight. Because your soulmate finally started seeing things they previously overlooked. Details. Patterns. Behaviors. Intentions. Pieces that never seemed important before. Now they matter. Now they stand out. Now they demand attention. The more closely your soulmate observes, the more questions arise. And questions are dangerous when someone is standing near a lifelong commitment. Because questions seek answers. And answers have consequences. There is one particular moment that continues replaying in their mind. A moment they have shared with nobody. Not friends. Not family. Not the person involved. Nobody. Yet they cannot stop thinking about it. Something was said. Something small. Most people would have ignored it. Most people would have forgotten it by the next day. But your soulmate didn't. Because the words revealed something unexpected. A glimpse behind a mask. A glimpse behind appearances. A glimpse behind the image everyone else believes. Ever since that moment, nothing has felt quite the same. The certainty that once existed has begun crumbling. And when certainty crumbles, hidden emotions rush into the empty space. That is exactly what happened. Thoughts of you returned stronger than before. Not as memories. Not as nostalgia. But as possibilities. For the first time in a long time, your soulmate stopped asking, "What if I move on?" and started asking, "What if I don't?" That question changed everything. Because it opened a door they had been keeping locked. A door leading directly toward you. My child. You may not realize it, but energy moves before circumstances do. Long before physical events change, something shifts beneath the surface. That shift has already begun. The connection between you and your soulmate is no longer sitting quietly in the background of their life. It has moved to the forefront. Whether they admit it or not. Whether they understand it or not. Whether they are ready or not. The truth keeps rising. And every attempt to suppress it only makes it stronger. There are moments now when they catch themselves imagining conversations that have never happened. Imagining reunions. Imagining explanations. Imagining possibilities. Then they immediately push those thoughts away. Not because they dislike them. Because they scare them. Hope can be frightening when a person has spent so long preparing for a different future. Yet hope continues appearing. Again and again. Like a persistent light refusing to go out. The more they fight it, the brighter it becomes. And somewhere deep within, they know why. Because the soul recognizes what the mind still questions. The soul recognizes significance. The soul recognizes alignment. The soul recognizes connections that cannot be easily replaced. That recognition is becoming impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, another development is quietly unfolding. One that nobody expected. The secret surrounding the other situation has begun leaking into the open. Not completely. Not yet. But enough to create tension. Enough to create doubt. Enough to create instability. People who once seemed confident have become nervous. People who once spoke with certainty have become cautious. People who once pushed strongly in one direction have started hesitating. The atmosphere is changing. And your soulmate notices. Every shift. Every contradiction. Every uncomfortable silence. They notice all of it. The deeper they look, the more difficult it becomes to continue pretending everything is normal. Because it isn't. Something important is unraveling. And the unraveling has only just begun. Yet the greatest revelation has not arrived. Not even close. Because the biggest surprise in this story is not the hidden secret. It is not the pressure. It is not the expectations. It is not even the approaching decision. The biggest surprise is what your soulmate finally realizes about themselves. A realization they have avoided for longer than they care to admit. A realization waiting beneath years of distractions. Years of excuses. Years of fear. Years of uncertainty. And now it is approaching the surface. Slowly. Inevitably. Powerfully. The realization is this. The life they truly want may not be the life they have been building. Imagine what happens when a person finally admits that to themselves. Imagine the earthquake that follows. Imagine the walls that begin collapsing. Imagine the plans that suddenly lose their meaning. Imagine the courage required to face such a truth. Your soulmate stands dangerously close to that moment. And once it arrives, there will be no returning to ignorance. No returning to comfortable illusions. No returning to old assumptions. Because truth changes everything it touches. It changes priorities. It changes decisions. It changes futures. And it is preparing to change theirs. But before any final choice can be made, before any path can be chosen, before any door can fully open, a conversation must occur. A conversation your soulmate has been avoiding. A conversation capable of altering everything. They know it. They feel it. They fear it. Because once those words are spoken, nothing will remain hidden. No pretending. No delaying. No escaping. Only truth. Raw truth. And that conversation is approaching faster than they realize. The signs are already in motion. The circumstances are aligning. The opportunity is forming. The pressure is building. Soon, very soon, silence will no longer be possible. And when silence finally breaks, when the truth finally speaks, when the masks finally fall, your soulmate will be forced to choose between the future everyone expects and the future their heart refuses to forget. What happens in that moment will determine far more than a relationship. It will determine the direction of an entire life. And the shocking part, the part nobody sees coming, is that someone else is about to reveal information that changes the entire situation just hours before that choice is made. The revelation is closer than anyone realizes. And when it arrives, your soulmate's world will never look the same again.